Good evening and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the virtual open house, Josef Korbel School of International Studies session. My name is Cassina Ensi. I'm the Director of Communications and Marketing for undergraduate admission. I'm so glad you've decided to join us, and I'm very excited to hand it over to my colleagues. But first, I'm going to tell you a little bit about what to expect tonight. This is a webinar, so you'll find that you can't use your microphone or the chat feature, but you can use the Q&A feature right at the bottom of your screen. Feel free to share any question you'd like an answer to. If it's about admission, I'll answer. If it's about international studies or public policy, my colleagues will be answering. I wanted to let you know that you can enable closed captioning and that we will be recording this webinar and then sharing all of these videos later on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to my colleagues from the Josef Korbel School of International Studies.
Well, good evening, everyone. And if you are indeed in a place where it's evening or good morning or afternoon, depending upon where you're joining us from. Thank you so much for being here. We're really excited to at least connect with you virtually. My name is Sandy Johnson. I am faculty at the Josef Korbel School. I'm also Assistant Dean of Undergraduate Programs. I'm going to introduce you to my colleague, Aya Mustafa.
Hi, everyone. Yeah. So, my name is Aya. I'm an academic advisor for undergraduates majoring in both public policy and international studies.
So Aya and I are going to talk to you a little bit about the programs that we offer here at the Josef Korbel School of International Studies. One thing that you are probably aware of is we have two majors at our school. We have a major in international studies and we have a major in public policy. So I think the international studies degree is really about making a difference in the world. Students who come into this policy are interested in all things global. They're thinking about, what is foreign relations? What is foreign policy? What is international development? Or how do global systems interact to impact our human and our social experience? So the international studies degree really looks at the forces that shape our ever-shrinking planet and look at the challenges or the issues that require cross-country collaboration. At the Korbel School, we talk about the idea that our international studies and our public policy folks are really folks that might consider themselves practical idealists in that they understand or they want to understand the forces that shape our world. They come to assess the world how it is, but they have a vision of how the world could be. And one of our goals is to empower our students with skills and knowledge to help bring about these small changes. Specifically within the School of International Studies, we set ourselves apart a little bit from other schools of international studies because of a very strong focus on equity and social justice. Again, with the international studies degree, we try to bring together different knowledge about global systems and global actors, as well as methods to go about trying to change things that we see internationally. And I think one of the really cool things about our international studies degree is we kind of merge the classroom experience with true experiential learning. I can't quite call it cultural immersion because I think cultural immersion takes years and years, but we do offer, or we do have a component of cultural exploration for our international studies students where they're gaining language proficiency. We're looking at intermediate language proficiency, but then they're also expected to study abroad. The idea is this engagement with cultures outside of our own really helps ground the theory and the practices that we talk about in the classroom. And as I'm sure you know from the other presentations that you've seen, DU has a phenomenal study abroad program. We have partnerships with over 180 institutions, which means that our international studies students who have the opportunity to really find the right school in the right location to help them build the skills or build the type of cultural experiences that will help them better embrace and develop their personal and professional goals. Now that's the international studies degree. We also have the public policy degree. And I think the public policy degree is really well tuned for students that are interested in finding practical solution to societal changes or to, societal challenges, be those challenges focused in the United States or be those challenges more international. With a public policy degree, we're really looking at developing a core set of skills to help you understand the processes of policy making, be it in a public sphere or private sphere, as well as the methods that we expect to see for those that are acting on social economic policy. Essentially, this means we're talking about classes and skills on how one identifies the particular issues and the challenges for those social issues, how one identifies specific desired outcomes for these social challenges, and how one identifies or considers the array of tools or levers that we have to impact this broad set of policies and have a broader social impact. We also look at the specific types of communications that are used in policy analysis and decision making. And I really think that the public policy degree, it's giving you these foundational skills to analyze a problem, assess solutions, present this to collective decision making, and then hopefully act upon that. One thing that I really want people to know is that the program is called public policy, but we are looking at policy making, and policy impacts public and private sectors. The tools that you use here will be helpful whether you're working in the public sector or whether you're working in a for-profit or not-for-profit organization. I think overall, when we look at the 2 degrees that we have, it's really important to know that we have fairly wide degree of flexibility in our degrees. As you know, these are part of the liberal arts education you get at DU, and both degrees require 44 credits. What that means is you're taking a whole bunch, a number of courses outside of our school to help you explore things that you're interested in, or force you to look at things you don't know that you're interested in, but you might become interested in. The other thing that's important to remember about international studies and public policy is both degrees have a core set of required courses, but then there are many opportunities for you to specialize in topics or skills that are of particular interest to you personally or professionally. I usually have people ask me what sets the Korbel school experience or the DU experience apart from other schools. And at Korbel, I think it's really about connections. We have small classroom sizes. Our advanced courses are capped at 25 students. We have some that are capped at 15, which really gives you the opportunity to have strong connection and strong interaction with your faculty members. And especially as you go from the introductory courses into the more advanced courses, there's a lot of opportunity for feedback to, again, tailor the type of learning outcomes to what you need for your professional or personal goals. The other thing with Korbel, it's not just connections inside of the classroom, it's connections outside of the classroom. And we like to say that our connections amplify and propel you forward into the professional careers that you seek. Just for an example, we have regular events at the Korbel School. We have a number of weekly events. And what we're trying to do with these weekly events is bring in both academic folks and practitioners in fields that are of interest to you. Now, again, I think of international studies. There are a lot of ways to go with international studies. You can go into development, you can go into health, you can go into kind of these ideas of democratization, you can go into global economic forces. You can look at global security. And just for example, I believe that right now, as I speak, we actually have a seminar that's going on that has it's a panel of 5 folks that are talking about what has been the impact of the war in the Ukraine. We're entering the 2nd year of that. Last week, we had a discussion that was actually led by Dr. Choman Harji on feminist activism in Iraq. And I bring this up because I want you to know that there are a lot of events that happen, and you have the opportunity to be exposed to practitioners in the field, but also interact with them. And I think that's really important. We have other things like the Democracy Summit, like Denver Dialogues, where you're connecting with policymakers, both from the local community, from the national, and from the international community. We offer a wide variety of student groups, and one thing that I think is kind of cool about our department, we have students from over 30 countries in it, and I think that that presents an array of diverse perspectives that really broaden how you think about things in the world. It's one thing if we're thinking in a little bubble, but when we're exposed to others who have a different background and think differently from us, I think that really changes how we think. Finally, I do want to mention that those who come into our school, whether it's international studies or public policy, have a wide array of career options. We have students that work in the public sector. We have students that work in the not-for-profit sector. We have students that work in the private sector. Just kind of, for example, we have a number of students that have gone on to work in state legislative offices or local government offices. We've even had a few actually go on to work in foreign offices because that works out really well. We have a number placed in congressional offices, as well as organizations such as AmeriCorps, Peace Corps. From the not-for-profit sector, we actually have students working in a number of agencies of particular interest. More recently, International Development Enterprise, which is now IDE. This is an organization that looks at international development and more recently local and domestic development, and groups like Common Hope or Project Cure. On the for-profit side, we have folks go on to a variety of things. I think one of the interesting ones that we had recently was actually going on to work for Tesla Motors. But I'm looking at the time and I want to stop talking because I would like to hand this over to Aya so she can give you a slightly different perspective.
Hi again, everyone. So this is Aya. I'm an academic advisor at Korbel School, and I'm actually an MBA student at Daniels as well in the University of Denver. I'm specializing in advising students majoring in international studies and public policy. My goal is not just to assist, but to guide and support you through challenges in your path to graduation. I'm actually committed to ensuring your success in the program. So what we'll do is usually I regularly meet with the students, address their concerns, explore opportunities for both academic and personal development. My role just goes beyond providing assistance. It's about guiding you through your college experience, just making it more memorable, fulfilling, and tailored to your aspirations. And actually, yeah, I'm looking forward to be a dedicated partner to every one of you in the Corbel School. Thank you.
Thank you, Aya. So I do have a couple of questions in Q&A, and I'd like to address them. The first question, what type of jobs do graduates obtain that have a degree in international studies? And actually, those with international studies, in the international studies degree, we have specialized areas, including international health and development, international organizations and actors, security, and human rights. And our graduates have gone on to careers, again, in both public and private sector across different fields. A number of our international studies graduates have actually started working at congressional offices. Our international studies students are the ones that we see really joining AmeriCorps, Peace Corps. The not-for-profit organizations that I mentioned earlier, things like IDE, which is an international organization that looks at international development, Global Brigades, Common Hope. These are all organizations that our students began working with after they graduated. We also have them going into private practice. We've had a number that have gone on to law firms, which I think is really interesting. We also have one very interesting organization, Institutional Global Investors. And so this was somebody who was very much on the global finance track. Renewable Choice Energy, we've had a couple of students that have gone on to, excuse me, those are just a few examples. So I think the important takeaway for those that leave with the international studies degree, there are opportunities out there. It's a question of where do you see yourself and how can we help you achieve that goal? Are you looking at public sector? Are you looking at private sector? Are you more oriented towards working in economics? Are you more oriented towards international development? Are you interested in organizations that are focusing on social justice or sustainability? I have another question. Is there a connection or collaboration between international studies programs and the international business program in the Daniels School of Business? So the broad answer is there are a number of avenues for students to go between these two programs. Again, our majors are part of the broader liberal arts education at DU. So if you look at the number of credits that you're taking, our credits account for about 22% of the credits you're going to be taking while you're here at DU. Which means if you're interested in both international studies and and a degree in business, you could have the opportunity to double major or you could minor. In terms of, and again, there are mechanisms to be flexible to suit what you hope to get out of your undergraduate degree. In terms of formal mechanisms, the one formal mechanism that exists is the students that are doing the international business degree at Daniels are required to take a number of courses in international studies. I have another question. Do we facilitate internship opportunities either with NGOs or governmental organizations? So when you come to DU, you'll see that DU actually has a career center that is open to all students. In the Career Center, there are staff who specialize in certain areas, and both our International Studies program and our Public Policy program work with a really wonderful woman named Rita O'Connell, who knows the terrain. And I bring this up because Rita is there to help work with you to identify internship opportunities that make sense to you. We have had students that have had internship opportunities in not-for-profits. We've had students who have done internships in for-profits, and we've also had a number of students that have done public sector internships. Rita is a fantastic resource to work with you to identify opportunities that are specific to your interests. I have a question on language proficiency. We require a 2-year language proficiency. So if you look at the general requirements for the University of Denver, the general requirement is 1 year, which is basic introduction to a language. 2-year language expectation is essentially an intermediate level of language proficiency. And of course, what we hope is that students who are doing the 2-year language proficiency will study abroad in a country that speaks the language they're studying, so they gain that really helpful practical experience. I have another question. Are there services at DU to help with career planning in the international studies major? Yes, as I just mentioned, there's the central career services at DU. Specifically, Rita O'Connell is the person that when you come, you'll be working with because she really knows international studies and public policies. Can I give examples of internships that current undergraduates have done? I will give you 2, and I will give you these 2 because they were my students, so I know them personally. We have had, actually, I'll give you 3. I had a student that did an internship with Project Cure. Project Cure, I teach in international health and development. So Project Cure is an organization that does outreach and delivery of medical goods and services to organizations around the world. We've had a number of students do internships there. One of the really cool ones was actually invited to go to Project Cure headquarters. And that was a really interesting experience because she was able to connect there with coordinators from other countries. We recently had a student over the summer complete an internship with Department of State. It was actually not just a great opportunity, but the student he really, really excelled there. As a result, he was invited to essentially be the host for the Mexican ambassador when he came to the US. And he got to go to every meeting with the ambassador except the meeting with the President of the United States. And I was very sad for him about that. But he's like, yeah, I get it. So those are just 2 examples. I could give you other examples, but I don't have time. Let's see. So I have a question about completing a bachelor's and a master's program. The specific question is about a 4+1. We do not have something called a 4+1 program for all sorts of technical reasons. What we do have is a program called Jumpstart. And what Jumpstart is a program to help you complete your bachelor's and your master's at an accelerated pace. We're looking at basically 5 to 5.5 years. At a reduced cost. There are the reduced costs, what we say online is it's a 50% reduction in cost. It actually ends up being about 70 to 73% reduction in cost. The Jumpstart program allows you to take graduate courses during your 5th year, or pardon me, scratch that, during your 4th year here. So when you're essentially a senior and you have senior status, you're going to take some courses for your undergraduate degree and some towards your graduate degree. Then the following year, you begin the strictly the master's program, and you would begin that at a discounted rate. If starting a new language from one you've taken before, what assistance is provided to help you decide which one to take? My friend Aya. When you come to DU, you're going to see that you have an advising team. There's going to be a central advisor who's going to work with you with general education, common curriculum requirements. There's also going to be an advisor that's based in your major. And so these are folks that you can talk to about what languages might make sense. And I think that it really depends upon if you have a personal interest or a professional interest. Certainly, if you're interested in working for Department of State, there are a number of critical languages which we would be able to talk to you about.
Yeah, I just wanted to add up to this. So my role as an academic advisor, once you just get to be declared, I actually help you by the time you just get into the school about the courses that you need to start with, if it's either the core curriculum courses or it's your major courses, or even if it's the language. We'll just discuss what your preferences is, and accordingly we'll decide exactly what the plan could be. We could actually work on a 4 years plan from by the time you just joined the school. We could work on a 4 years plan that would actually help by just having a clear plan for your coming 4 years.
So I have another question. Entering DU after taking AP French 5 with a seal of biliteracy. So I'm going to be very careful in how I answer this question, because I am not the person that knows all the technicalities with the language proficiency. Generally, what happens if you're bringing in AP credit with language, it reduces the number of courses that you have to take. It might, and emphasis on might, not will, it might allow you to fulfill the 2-year language proficiency. That is up to our language department and the evaluators, and every AP program is slightly different, so I will not give you a definitive answer. In general, though, it does reduce the number of courses that you would have to take to meet the language proficiency. Let's see. I think I have answered the questions that are in the queue. Any other questions out there? So I do have a question on on being able to test out of language proficiency. Yes, that is possible. There are two avenues to do that. When you come to DU, if you already have language background, you can take a placement test. A placement test will say, do you start at the basic level? Do you go somewhere into the intermediate level? There's also something called a proficiency exam. The proficiency exam is something that you would take right now. I believe it costs $40 to take it. And this is a nationally recognized test that determines your level of proficiency. And so you would have the opportunity to take that and see what level of proficiency you have. How many undergraduates are there majoring in between the two majors? We have the international studies degree right now is at about 340, so it's a fairly large program. Public policy is a relatively new degree in our school. I believe we are entering our fourth year. It has been at DU for a while, but it came to the Korbel School for a lot of very logical reasons, because there's so many cross ties between international studies and public policy. And the public policy degree is about between 50 and 60 majors. So it is a smaller degree right now. It's actually growing pretty quickly. I'm going to ask Aya to put an email in the chat in case you have any other questions for us that we didn't have an opportunity to answer tonight, or if you think of them later on. I have 2 minutes and I have a couple more questions that I think I can answer. In international studies, when you decide on your concentration, how many credits do you take for that? So in international studies, the entire degree is 44 credits. Within that, there are going to be 3 courses or 12 credits, which are required courses, they're core courses. Then there's an additional area of specialization. And in the for the specialization, you will end up taking 12 credits in that. Question, is it feasible to double major between political science and international programs? Yes, we actually have a fair number of students who do that. You'll find when you come to DU that there are many opportunities to double major. I will say you can almost double major with anything, except do not attempt it with music. Music is a very rigid program, and do not attempt it with engineering. Those are both very rigid programs. They have a much higher credit requirement than many of the other majors do. But otherwise, typically, it's possible to double major in almost any other program.
Yes, in fact, the majority of our students end up double majoring. Just wanted to add that the most common combination at DU is to double major and double minor, though only one major and one minor is required to graduate.
And then I think I have one more question that I can answer before we're out of time. What year do you decide on your concentration? I would generally say that you can think about your concentration into your junior year. If you actually look at our courses and what our specializations are, a number of the courses are listed across specializations because the topics, the knowledge, the skills make sense. You know, if you're looking, I'll tell you, if you're looking at international health and development, and you're taking a course on health and development, you're going to look at not only health outcomes, but the social determinants of health. And one of the huge determinants of health is actually economics, and looking at macroeconomic policy. And so that course would also kind of fall over into the global trade and finance concentrations. If you're, as we've learned with the COVID pandemic, if you're looking at health, you're also talking about international security. So there's a lot of intersections that come up in our courses. And again, when you're looking at all of the classes that you're taking, it's not particularly difficult to get 3 courses in a single concentration. So I like to encourage INTS majors to try different things. And by your junior year, I think there's still enough time for you to make sure you're getting 3 courses in one of the concentration areas. I am now over time. I'm going to thank you all for being here, and I will hand this back to Cassina for ending things.
Thank you so much, Sandy and Aya. This was wonderful. And thank you all for joining us this evening. One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of this is that I'm actually a DU alum and I graduated with a double major in international studies from Korbel and in German. So it's definitely possible and I highly recommend it. I also added information about finding your admission counselor or reaching out to undergraduate admission. If you have any questions about next steps or applications, please don't hesitate to reach out. Big thanks again to my colleagues. Wishing you all a great evening. Thank you.